Good morning, St. Augustine. Your access to the voices of top local newsmakers starts now. Here's your host, Liz Ryan.
Good morning, and thank you for tuning in. This morning, I have my second installment with Commissioner Clay Murphy. Thank you, Clay. Thank you for joining me again.
Good morning, Liz. Thank you for having me.
You're always so gracious with your time, and I appreciate it.
Well, you're very welcome. That's part of being a public servant. You need to be available. So that was part of the campaign promise, was that I'd answer the emails and answer the calls. So I've done the best. There have been some emails that have slipped through that people reminded me of later and said, look, I didn't get an answer. Our pastor gave us some good advice one time. We do a thing called huddle, which all the volunteers come in before church starts, and he gives a little huddle, a little talk. And he said, you need to make a habit of going back through your text messages and through your emails, because there are a lot of times you said you were going to do something and you miss it and you forget it. Life is that way. And so I try to do that. I try to go back and find the ones that I missed and make sure that I re-engage. I've done that a couple of times already because I get a lot of emails. I get 20, 30 a day, every day. And even when we were on vacation, Pammy and I took off and we got on the motorcycle and went to Maine and back, had a great trip for 13 days. We were gone for 13 days. But every night when we got in bed, she had her computer working on work stuff, and I had mine working on emails for the people that had emailed that day. So it's a full-time job. And my heart is to respond to everybody.
You always respond to me, and I thank you very much for that. So let's jump right in. One of the most contentious issues was the 14-point tree protection plan that Krista Joseph proposed going back, I think, about 2 years now when the board was different. Now there's a different lineup on the board, and she reintroduced the 14 points. Only 2 of them survived. That was very controversial. Christian Whitehurst said at a recent meeting that, I'm paraphrasing, if you vote for tree protections, you're not a Republican. What's your take on that?
Well, the spirit of it is that, we literally fought a revolutionary war based on property rights. The king was trying to tell us what we could and could not do with our property. So there was this little thing called the Revolutionary War based on property rights. And so in that vein, I agree. I'm a conservative Republican. I've always been a conservative Republican, and I believe in property rights. But within that, I also think that there are certain things that make sense and things that don't. For instance, I'm a big believer in, not requiring my neighbor to do something just because I want him to do it. There's ways to go in and to make sure that things are compatible and that there's proper infrastructure for them. That's one of the guidelines that we have is it compatible and is there infrastructure? And if there's no compatibility or no infrastructure, then the board has the legal availability to say no to anything, whether it's a rezoning or whether it's something else. If it's compatible, I'll give you an example. If someone buys a piece of property in a residential neighborhood and wants to put a concrete plant there, they have the right to buy the property, but I don't think that would be compatible or the infrastructure for something like that. So there are common sense guidelines that I think we can do. So let's talk about the tree ordinance. I thought that there was some low-hanging fruit in that, some things that we could agree with. So when the whole
You were a mixed vote on that. Yeah,
well, for me, it was a procedural thing. I thought we were going to vote on each individual one separately, that we would bring up the first one and vote, second one, but the chair decided to roll them all into one. The reason that I voted no is because I thought that there were some issues with the increase in percentage of upland preservations. It's not that I don't think upland preservations are important, because they are. I just think there's another way to get it. And people were mad at me because, the attorneys for builders have dropped this big letter on us the day before our meeting. Well, they weren't quiet about their problems with this from the get-go, right from the get-go. So I've had people talking to me on both sides that wanted a meeting with me, on both sides. We need tree protections, and those who say that's too far. That's the straw that kind of broke the camel's back. So in looking at that particular one, increasing the upland requirements, there were 3 arguments against it that they were bringing, and one was a violation of the Burt-Harris Act, which is a law that says, and where this particular one fit in was that if we had painted with a broad brush and said everybody is restricted to 10%, then Burt-Harris would not have applied. But what we did is we out of common sense, you think anybody under 40 acres, they don't have enough land to build a development anyway. A development that we think about as development has got to be a lot of acreage. So we kind of protected individuals that have smaller lots by requiring it to stay under 40. Well, what that did is it made it discriminatory now, because now it's not everybody. It's just the people that have more than 40 acres. And so Burt Harris came into play. That's what the attorneys were arguing, or that was the arguments that they were trying to make. The second thing is the constitutionality of it. I mean, the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution clearly states that as a government, we can take what we feel we have to have. It's an eminent domain, but we have to compensate. We have to give them fair compensation for their land. And by doing this, we weren't giving them anything. There's no compensation for their land. So the Constitution, whether it was constitutional or not, was another argument that they could make. And the third one was Senate Bill 180. And basically, in a nutshell, Senate Bill 180 says that if you lived in a county that was affected by a hurricane or storm within the last 2 years, that you couldn't go back and make any restrictions more restrictive than you already had. And that was signed into law last year, and surprisingly, there wasn't any controversy about this law, because this law was designed to protect individual homeowners. A guy who had lived there for 30 years, built his house under the code 30 years ago, a hurricane comes through and blows his house away, he should be able to build his house back the way it was.
But doesn't it also apply to properties that weren't touched by hurricanes, new construction?
Yeah, I guess you'd have to say yes. Of course. But what they're saying is that you can't, for that 2-year period, that 2-year build-back period, that you couldn't make any laws that were more restrictive. And that's what they were arguing, is that doubling that 5% to 10% was a violation in spirit of Senate Bill 180. So I started thinking about it as, here we are, a smaller county. We're dependent upon residences for our ad valorem income, and so we're dependent upon the state to fund capital improvement projects. The very people that we're fixing to, the argument for me was, we need to fight this. We need to fight it. Well, Orange County's fighting it.
Deltona, New Smyrna
Deltona,
Beach,
yeah. There's a lot of
Manatee, Pasco.
There's a lot of places that are already fighting this.
Yep.
The law's going to change. It's going to be different next year. There are obviously fixes that had to be made. My thing is, why would we want to add our name to a lawsuit and tell our elected representatives and our senators and our governor, we don't like your law, and so we're just not going to do it?
Well, critics would say because we make our own regulations here in St. Johns County. Why would we give a power to the governor or state officials that have no connection to St. Johns County? Shouldn't we keep the power and the decisions to our elected officials here in the county and our residents? And don't we know what's best for us?
Yeah, absolutely. And I absolutely agree with that. But here's the challenge, is that you don't do it by giving the middle finger to the very people who are going to be doling out capital improvement projects next year. What you do is you change it the way you've always been able to change laws, and that's you go through the system. I was not willing. I thought it was an awful idea to join a lawsuit and poke the bear, if you will, for the very people that we are so dependent upon to get our infrastructure issues done and funded. I thought there was a better way to do it. And one of the better ways to do it is to pause, let Senate Bill 180 run its course and see where it lands, and then revisit this and say, we want an additional upland protections. How do we get it without incurring hundreds of thousands in legal fees on our taxpayers and our reputation between the very people that we're asking for money for? It's like holding your hand out for money one and giving them the bird with the other. It didn't make any sense to me. When we can get what we want, we just have to wait. The thing that astonished me is people's vitriolic responses when they didn't get it right then, right the way they wanted it, without worrying about the consequences. We don't care about the consequences. We just want what we want. And I didn't think it was wise to do that. I thought it was, actually, to be honest with you, I thought it was stupid. And let me put the word stupid in quotation marks and then highlight it and then underline it and then put it in bold. It's stupid to do that. I can't make stupid decisions because of an emotional response to something because I'm a little kid, a little baby, and I didn't get what I wanted. We have to be smarter than that. We have to figure out a way to get what we want that doesn't disrupt everything and really put us in a bad light. And I'm not willing to do that with the relationships that we have with the very people that we depend on, because we don't have industry, because we're not a Manatee County that has warehousing for miles where they have all this commercial income. We don't have that commercial income. We just have the backs of our taxpayers, and I would not be a good fiduciary for this county if I put it on the burden on our taxpayers. And that's how I saw it. That's how I see it. And that's how I'm going to vote from now on. But we're going to get it done. We are going to get it done. I said while I was sitting on the dais that I was going to make sure that we get this done, and we're going to find a way to do it.
Okay, that's SB 180. And another law, Commissioner Murphy, that's being contested by Martin County, Orange County, Seminole County, and Pasco County so far is the Live Local Act. Critics say that takes away hometown rule, puts all the power in the hands of the Tallahassee politicians, takes it away from local residents, and just ignores what people in our county want. What do you think of the Live Local Act?
I think that was, in concept, it was a great idea. But in reality, the unintended consequences of that law have been devastating to communities like ours. You can ride down 16 or you can ride down 207, and you can see the effects of the Live Local Act in our county. And we as a commission have no say in it, just like the state does this all the time. One of the reasons why I ran is because I believe in home rule. I believe in us making those decisions. But here again, I'm not going to go out and cut my nose off to spite my face because I got my feelings hurt. I'm going to work through the process, and I'm going to help get that legislation changed the way you get legislation changed. And that's through the legislature. That's not through social media. Social media is not going to change it. Jumping up and down and saying wah is not going to change it. Being efficient, having good people, having good relationships with our representatives. Kim Kendall is a superstar. She is the go-getter. She's working for us. Done. She's getting it done. I'm going to Kim. I'm going to Sam Greco down on the south end. Sam Greco is going to be a superstar just like Kim is. Judson Sapp over on the west side is, I thought he would be a weak representative. He's come out to be a superstar. Tom Leake, whether you like Tom or whether you don't, he is poised for real power in the Senate in the next few years, and he is also working for us. So why would I handicap my representatives that are working so hard for me by saying, we don't like your law and we don't like the way you do things, so we're just going to do our own thing? No, we're going to do it the right way, but we're going to get the job done in the right way.
Interesting side note about Kim Kendall, a representative. She's very busy. She's getting a lot done, and she sends out newsletters.
Yeah.
And they're chock full of information and pictures and sometimes videos. Did you know she writes those herself? She creates them all by herself?
I'm not surprised. I consider myself a good friend with her and Kelly, her husband, and he says, look, I'm a bachelor for the next while she's there because she works all the time. She wakes up at 2-3 in the morning and gets to work at 2-3 in the morning. She's a superstar. If she doesn't work herself in the hospital like she has already, she needs to slow down a little bit. But she's a superstar.
Yeah,
I'm a big supporter of hers, and I think she's going to do great for this county.
Let's get back to Krista Joseph's original 14-point tree protection plan that she proposed a couple of years ago, and only 2 survived. One of the 12 that didn't survive was buffers. Now, I'm talking to you right now, not as a reporter, but as a resident. I find, this is just my opinion, this giant storage facility that's fairly new on Route 1 North vulgar. It's huge.
Well, there's one on 207 that's just as bad.
Just as bad.
Yeah.
But the one in your district, right, there's already a storage unit next to it. Yeah. I don't know why that was approved, and it's so close to the street.
Yeah.
And there's almost no vegetation between the storage facility and the street, and it's an absolute eyesore. And to me, every time I drive by it, it's as if that company was just giving the middle finger to St. Johns County. It's abhorrent, in my opinion.
I absolutely agree. So that one on 207 is right across the street from my church. I drive by it. I know the neighbors on both sides of that. If there was ever if you look up in the dictionary the definition of incompatible, that's incompatible.
But isn't that an argument for buffers?
Oh, yeah. How that got through, I have no idea. That should have been stopped at the county level, and that's the challenge. I think buffers are important, but buffers need to be project by project. We need to have a commission that has the resolve to go in and say, no, we want more. Being in the commission now, I hesitate to point the finger down the road, back behind us and say something should have been done then. So I won't say it. I'll just say that going forward, any project that I can get on board, and here again, we'll put a caveat on here. I have to be careful when I say things about projects that could come before the county commission, because we act as, in some things, in quasi-judicial things, as a judge. So I have to be careful what I say, what I would do, or how I would vote. I can just say that there would not be a lot of support from a commission that I was a part of for projects going forward that don't have the right buffers in them. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. Well, why can't you just come out and say that you're against it? I can't, because then the attorneys take this and they use it as a reason to sue and overturn something that we've done. So I have to be really careful what I say. If it's me and you and we're behind closed doors, I'll tell you how I feel about it. But on a broadcast, I'll tell you that it would be difficult to find support for a project going forward like that didn't have the things that I felt are important. And everything on my flyer that Commissioner Taylor waved in front of everybody, I believe that. But one of the things I'm discovering while I'm in the seat, kind of behind the wizard's curtain, is that there are specific laws that apply and rules that I have to follow. I don't have a magic wand. We talked about this last week. I don't have a magic wand to wave it and go around laws or the way things have to go. I can't do that. I've got to use the system, work within the system that we have.
So tell me, Commissioner Murphy, if this is a correct summary of what you just said. You feel that we cannot enact any ordinances into our comp plan that require bigger buffers, but you can take it as a commissioner on a case-by-case basis and say, hey, this proposed project with very little buffer is incompatible. So you would prevent more situations like those two big, horrendous storage facilities, not by amending the comp plan, but by taking it on a case-by-case basis and using the argument of incompatibility as a reason to deny a project that doesn't have enough of a buffer.
Let me kind of say it this way. We complain that the federal government takes away our autonomy by federal laws. We complain that the state does it to us all the time. They throw these blanket laws over us that takes our autonomy away from us. Why would we as a county want to continue that same action with every single project that could come before us in perpetuity? I think they all have to be looked at with an individual scope about compatibility. Is it a storage unit that's got a big giant 4-story wall right next to a sidewalk by 207? Yeah, that's an easy one for me. That's the definition of incompatible.
That's a hard no for you.
But if someone has a horse farm and they want to bring their pasture out to the fence line, those are individual things that would need to be looked at individually if we are to say we're conservatives and we want to be able to have home rule. We've got to look at it that way. So there are things that we can do as a commission in the comp plan. I think that we can get that done. We talked about it last week. I'm committed to making sure that we increase our upland buffers, but I want to do it in a way that is not going to cause us to have a lawsuit, that's not going to get us sued, that's not going to have the governor and the cabinet and the Senate and the House punish us, because that's what happens. You can say it's not fair, but that's the way it works. You have to be careful to work within how things work. We're going to get it done. We're going to get it done in a way that doesn't violate the Fifth Amendment, that doesn't violate Senate Bill 180, and doesn't violate the Burt-Harris Act.
You up for a lightning round?
I'm up. Let's play.
Let's play. All right, here we go. You ready? First one. Black History Museum.
I can't wait for it to come to St. Johns County. I cannot wait.
Is it going to come to St. Johns County for sure?
If we have anything to do with it, we're coming. We got money. Senator Leak was very instrumental in getting us the first $1 million that we can use for planning. As a businessman, I know how expensive it is for plans and for engineering studies and all the things they have to do to get it started. But we've got the first $1 million. I'm just going to say the guy who's in charge of leadership is from Miami and still wants it back in Opelika, but we are fighting tooth and nail to keep it in St. Johns County.
E-bike safety.
I'm so excited about that. Let me tell you about e-bike safety. So I was tasked by the commission, I guess largely because I opened my big mouth, but it's very, very important. I have a grandson that has an e-bike, so it was very important. I was tasked to work on the education component of the education and enforcement rule, because I know as a law enforcement officer, there's only two ways to change people's behavior, and that's through education and enforcement. I went to the sheriff's office and to the men and women of the sheriff's department, and they were already on it. They had published a brochure, a flyer with one of those codes on it so that you could get more information on it. I went to the school board. I said, can we get a classroom portion in your middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade this year before Christmas in this first semester? They said, absolutely. The sheriff has a curriculum done. One thing I am going to come back to the board and ask for is I really want an opportunity to get this class accredited. And you can't just say, can you accredit this class? It's got to be, the educational process is complicated. It has to be an accredited class that we can also put online so that anybody can share it anywhere at any time. Parents, kids, caregivers, train the trainers. So we're really excited about that, so I'll be coming back.
Millage rate rollback.
Yes. I kind of hesitated, and let me tell you why. What I've discovered in this job is that there are always projects that need to be funded, and we don't have enough money for everything. So the question is, what do we cut? But something has to be cut. People need a break. I think the staff did an amazing job in the budget this year to get us to a place where we could do a partial rollback. Even though we voted to keep the millage rate, the cap, flat, I promised my support for a rollback, even if it's a partial rollback, and I'm going to keep my promise about that.
Magic Beach Motel.
Wow. I suggested to a lot of people that they get together and buy the Magic Beach Hotel and do whatever they wanted to with their property, because I'm a property rights guy. But one of the things that I was kind of relieved is that the question about whether it was going to be torn down or not was taken out of our hands. It's a state issue. We don't have a dog in that hunt. We don't have a say. But for me, my hopes, this is what I've heard, is that the people that are coming in and want to rebuild there are taking portions of the Magic Beach, the signs, and some of the ambiance, and they're going to incorporate that into the new plans when they do that. If it even happens, that's still an ongoing thing.
Schneider Family Campground.
If there was ever a place to put a Snyder family campground, that's it. It's in the middle of nowhere. People are going to be able to get off the interstate at Favorite Dykes and go to a campground and then go right back to the interstate, and they won't even come to St. Johns County. Hopefully it'll be a big boon. If I had an RV, I'd probably go down there and stay because it's right next to a state park, and from what I understand, they're going to have some horseback ride and all kinds of stuff.
Nights of Lights.
Ooh, that's not a lightning round. I did go before the city council and argued against compression, and when I say about compression is reducing nights of lights.
Shortening the nights,
yeah,
shortening the dates.
Cynthia Garris, one of the commissioners for the city, actually suggested a compromise in keeping it through MLK weekend, the 19th, but they decided to do the 12th. So I'm probably gonna say something I shouldn't say, which is great for reporters, right? I'm going to say something I shouldn't say. I love it.
Radio Gold here. I
can tell you that a vote might come before the commission when it comes to TDC dollars going for Nights of Lights. I really don't know how that works, and so I don't want to speak out of turn. I can just tell you that I would be very grateful for any plan that includes the sheriff's office and the mobility issue, getting people in and out. I think they have a way to get people in and out that would really take the strain off of the people who live there. And I think the sheriff needs to be included in any plans when it comes to mobility. It would be difficult to support a plan going forward that cost taxpayer dollars that did not include the sheriff's office taking the lead on mobility, getting in and out of the city.
Speaking of the sheriff's office, Diamond of Dreams.
Oh, what a great concept. So the county has a park up in the north end for kids that are challenged physically. Mm-hmm. It was the coolest thing when we did the ribbon cutting, and to see those kids' faces. There is not a price that we should not be willing to pay to allow these kids to get out there and play.
Okay, last lightning round question, Commissioner Murphy. A second term?
Absolutely.
So you'll run again?
Absolutely.
How about your wife? I can't help but wonder if she has any political ambitions.
Oh, I'm telling you, if she ran for office, I would vote for her because she's amazing. As far as I'm concerned, I would self-term limit.
Okay.
Two terms.
So 2 terms, and that's it.
That's it.
And the reason I bring your wife into it, because she's by your side quite a lot.
Yeah.
She's been with you through thick and thin,
Yep.
and a big supporter of yours. And she must have learned a lot being by your side for the past 9 months.
Well, I don't know what she learned, but I know I learned a lot from her. She is one of the smartest people that I know, and I would support her in anything that she did. I think she's comfortable staying out of the spotlight. That's not her thing. You know, I've been in the spotlight for 40 years, and so I think it's a great fit. I can tell you that if people think that the social media criticism that I get is bad, you ought to come home with me after I make a bad decision. Or a decision. There are decisions that I make that she doesn't like, and she lets me know about it.
And something that you stress on social media is you're always asking what I call keyboard warriors, my words, not yours, to, instead of going on Facebook or social media and complaining about you, to call you directly. You're always giving out your phone number, and you're always encouraging people to come directly to the source, straight to you.
Yeah, because a lot of times there's stuff in the background that they don't know. And as much as I love interacting with people on social media, I literally don't have time to interact with everybody and every question. Because a lot of times people on social media will go down rabbit holes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but what about this? And yeah, but what about that? Well, I haven't dealt with that one yet. But I'm always willing to either answer an email or a phone call or a visit. If you want to visit, you want to sit down and have a coffee, I'm really big for that, because face-to-face to me, you can see my heart. My heart is not to hurt anybody. My heart is to try to make the best decision that I can. And am I a compromiser? I'm always looking for a way to give at least partially everybody something in any of the deals that come up before the county, because I think it's only fair. I think when everybody gets a little bit and everybody loses a little bit, I think that's the art of negotiation. That's the art of the deal, as Trump would say. And yes, I'm a Trump supporter. I'm going to say that right now. I voted for him. And so if people don't like me because of that, that's okay.
Do you keep in touch with your predecessor, Roy Alamo? Yes.
We talk on the phone at least once a month. He's been very good about calling me in support and saying if I need anything, if there's anything he can do to help. So, you know, that's the thing about elections, is I truly feel, as fellow Republicans and fellow Americans, that when the election is over, we need to shake hands and get busy about the business of the county and not put up those walls, tear those walls down, and let's cross the aisle. Let's work together. Let's get some stuff done. I'm a conservative, but it doesn't mean that someone who's not like me, that their opinion is not valuable, because it is valuable. I'm not saying that I might not change my mind because I'm a conservative, but it's certainly my heart's desire to listen and to hear and to take other people's opinions into account.
I think that last year we saw a very cordial transition of power here in District 3.
It was a interesting election, but when the election was over, I think everybody felt like, okay, and I'm not saying this in an arrogant way, but I think most of the people that fought against us in the primary said, okay, the election's over. Clay won. Clay's our guy.
And are you hoping that if and when you do run for re-election, because you just said
when?
When? All right. So when you do run for re-election, are you hoping that the tone of the campaigns changes?
Desperate that the tone changes. We have to come together as a county, as a people. You see on the national level what division does. I think that there are agents in this county that are actively trying to divide and to conquer. I think the Saul Alinsky playbook is to categorize us differently so that we can have the haves and the have-nots. It's communist. It's Marxist. It's against anything I believe when it comes to the Bible and Jesus Christ. It's about love. It's about forgiveness. It's about working hard. It's about taking care of people. It's about giving. It's about forgiving. There's a lot, I hope, in this next election that happens.
Last October, I was dreading going to my mailbox every day. It was full of ugliness. Let's hope that changes. God is good.
God is good all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner Clay Murphy. You have always been so gracious to me and generous with your time, and I appreciate your very candid, honest responses to some pretty tough questions.
No, I'm probably in the doghouse after a couple of those now,
You can't
but
win,
it's
right?
okay.
If you don't have people mad at you as a commissioner, you're not doing your job, right?
Well, I got a dog that sleeps with me every night anyway, so I'm comfortable in the doghouse.
What do you
Thank you,
think you'll
Liz,
do
so
with the
much.
rest of your Sunday, Commissioner?
Well, going back to church and then watching the grandbabies, which is such a thrill for us.
I bet. Thank you so much. And thank you for listening to Good Morning St. Augustine. Remember, all of our programs can be downloaded as a podcast. Go to flaglerbroadcasting.com, click on podcast, and scroll down to Good Morning St. Augustine. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday in our beautiful, ancient, historic city.